Have you ever thought about living in a city where everything you need, work, school, leisure, and healthcare is just a 5-minute walk away with no cars, no pollution, and no traffic? Now imagine that this city doesn't spread out horizontally, but instead stretches in a straight line for more than 170 kilometers, right in the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert. And on top of that, it's 500 meters tall and has mirrors that reflect the horizon. This is the line, and it's part of the futuristic megaproject called NEOM. It's a city planned from scratch that promises to forever change the way humans live in large metropolises. Given everything we know, a project like this seems impossible to accomplish. However, this seemingly impossible project is already underway and has been closely monitored since 2022. This is Construction Time. I'm Luciano Guimarães, and in this video, you'll get updated on the biggest futuristic mega project the world has ever seen. To understand why Saudi Arabia is building this futuristic city in the middle of the desert, we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Saudi Arabia has always been synonymous with oil. This makes it one of the biggest powers in the world in this area. But there's a problem with that. The world is changing. Countries are adopting clean energy. Electric cars are becoming popular, and major economies are reducing their use of fossil fuels. In short, oil is no longer king. Now imagine a country that depends almost entirely on a single product. For example, as if Brazil depended only on soybeans or minerals. Now imagine that the global market starts turning its back on this product, causing a huge drop in exports and consequently in the country's economy. This is exactly the risk that Saudi Arabia is trying to avoid. That's when Vision 2030 was born, Prince Mohammed bin Salman's plan to reinvent the country. And that's where the Line project becomes one of the key pieces of this plan, with the idea of transforming Saudi Arabia into a center of innovation, tourism, science, and technology. All of this without relying on oil. But if the line goes beyond the economy, it's also a critique of the way cities work today. For example, think about São Paulo, Rio, or Belo Horizonte. Chaotic traffic, long distances, pollution, and crowded public transportation. This happens because our cities were made for cars, not just for people. And the more they grow, the more inefficient and unequal they become if there isn't good management. The line tries to change this model. Instead of spreading out horizontally like every traditional metropolis we know, as it expands, it stretches in a straight line. No isolated neighborhoods or peripheral zones. Everything is together, stacked vertically. It's as if we took an entire city and put it inside a building that stretches for 170 kilometers. Besides that, the city will be 100% powered by renewable energy, with no cars, high-speed underground transportation, and green areas everywhere. For those who think this sounds like unbelievable science fiction, that's the point. They want to turn fiction into reality. Now that we understand why Saudi Arabia is betting on this project, let's talk about what the line actually is. As we've already mentioned, the project will be a straight-line city, 170 kilometers long. That's fine so far, but for you to really understand, that length is almost the distance between São Paulo and Campos do Jordão, except in the form of a single continuous building. Besides that, the city will be 200 meters wide, which means just over 2 soccer fields side by side. And the most surprising thing is that it will be 500 meters tall, almost the size of the Empire State Building, but stretching for 170 kilometers. Can you imagine a gigantic wall of mirrors cutting through the desert? That's what the line will look like from the outside. And these mirrored facades were designed not only for the futuristic look, but also to help reflect the heat and integrate the surrounding landscape into the city. Inside the city, the organization is vertical and very practical. Instead of sprawling neighborhoods, everything will be stacked: the ground level, green areas, parks, and leisure zones. In the middle, there will be housing, schools, hospitals, and markets, making up the city's daily life. And in the underground base, in all the invisible parts, there will be transportation, energy, logistics, and even waste collection. Everything will be automated. It's still not certain how this waste collection will work, but based on sustainability principles, it's likely the focus will be on reducing, reusing, and recycling. Even more so because the project itself is focused on sustainability. However, as you can already imagine, one of the most radical points of the proposal is the complete elimination of cars. In other words, no more streets with traffic. Instead of that, an underground high-speed train system will connect the entire city from end to end in 20 minutes. And to get around within each sector, people will use elevators and vertical walkways, like the ones you see in futuristic movies. Now pay attention to this fact. The line will have only 34 square kilometers of built area, but it will house 9 million people. That's almost 11 times more than São Paulo can hold in the same area. It's like taking almost the entire population of a city like São Paulo and putting it in a line of concrete and glass in the middle of the desert. The proposal is bold, yes, but there's logic behind it. Everything was designed to save space, reduce emissions, keep resources close to people, and cut waste. It's high-density urbanism taken to the extreme, with a look that seems straight out of a science fiction movie. But let's get to what we really want to know. How's the project coming along right now? Now that you understand the concept of the line and what it promises, here's the question everyone wants answered. Is this really being built? Or is it just a nice idea on paper? The answer is yes, construction has started, but the progress is more modest than many people expected. According to satellite images analyzed by experts and published by Newsweek in 2025, the most visible progress is concentrated in a section called Ready Marina. This sector will be the first habitable area of the city and will have the capacity for more than 200,000 residents. There, excavation is already at an advanced stage. Heavy machinery works daily on deep foundations, concrete bases, and underground tunnels. Some internal structures are already being assembled, especially the parts where the transport and utility systems will run. Another highlight under construction is the Neon Stadium, which is being built at a height of 350 meters. That's right, a suspended stadium designed for large-scale events, such as the 2034 World Cup. Just this detail already shows the level of ambition of the project. However, there is still no guarantee that this stage of the project will be ready by the World Cup date, making this just public speculation. But despite these advances, the pace of the line project is slower than originally planned. The initial goal was to complete the first 5 kilometers of the city by 2030. Now the plan has been reduced to 2.4 kilometers by that same date, with an estimated capacity to house about 300,000 residents instead of the initially estimated 1.5 million. And even this section is only expected to start receiving residents between 2027 and 2028 if there are no further delays. However, when fully completed, the project will be able to house 9 million inhabitants. And here's another important factor. The project's initial cost was estimated at around $500 billion. However, recent internal audits by Neon Direct to Director News indicate that costs could exceed $8.8 trillion. Yes, trillions. To give you an idea, that's almost the entire GDP of Brazil. Even though Saudi Arabia has plenty of money coming from oil, this kind of investment raises doubts even among the project's own partners. Besides that, this new amount represents more than 25 times Saudi Arabia's annual budget. In other words, the line is actually becoming a reality. But it faces a reality that's quite different from the idealized vision shown in the promotional videos. The future will depend on the Saudi government's ability to keep up the pace of construction, attract investors, and respond to the growing criticism surrounding the project. If the line is completed as planned, it could completely redefine the concept of a modern city. As you can see, the proposal is to drastically reduce carbon emissions, eliminate the use of cars, and create a more efficient and connected urban life. All of this in the middle of the desert. For Saudi Arabia, the impact goes beyond urbanism. It's about positioning the country as a leader in innovation and attracting investors outside the oil sector. However, the execution raises doubts, questions about human rights, displacement of local populations, and the trillions invested still generate debate. Critics see the project as a technological showcase far removed from the country's social reality. Even so, the line is already under construction, and that in itself already makes the project relevant. It may not turn out exactly as it was envisioned, but it will hardly go unnoticed. If it works, it will be an example. If it fails, it will serve as a warning about the limit between ambition and feasibility. Thank you for watching this video up to this point. What do you think based on what we currently know about the line? Will this project really get off the drawing board the way it was originally planned? What do you think about all of this? Leave your opinion in the comments below. I'll be happy to read all of them. That's it for now. Take care and see you in the next video.